Guess what?
What's that?
So I was in a therapy session,
Okay.
which a lot of our conversations start with that now. Oh, I'm learning so much, though. But we started talking about grief.
Okay. And you learned something new, or what happened?
Well, I did, and I learned what physically happens during grief, and it absolutely blew my mind.
Or would you say it tears your mind?
Ooh. I think we're going to talk about that. And I was thinking about this in the context of not just losing someone, but losing something.
We're always losing something.
That's right. Like a business or a task that we delegate.
Oh.
So today's kind of a new look at grief.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a spin. So if you're like a grief counselor or a grief scientist,
Just go ahead and leave
yeah.
leave us a nice message talking about everything that made no sense.
Yeah. But so today is we're going to talk about this kind of new look at grief and how the reason I wanted to talk about it is because I think it really affects our focus.
Yeah. All right, bro. Well, I'm ready to dig in.
Let's dig in.
Nice.
Bum, bum.
I'm Jonathan Noel.
And I'm Brian Noel,
This is the Focus Cast.
where we share our journey to reduce distractions
Increase focus
so we can live a life.
with intentions.
All those intentions.
So many intentions.
So I'm ready to get focused as
Buoy. So, bro, we're talking about grief.
grief.
I like this.
We're going to try to keep this as funny and say as many jokes as possible, even though we're talking about grief. No pressure.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either. Just thought of it.
So, what is grief? Let's say that real quick.
Grief is a natural response to loss.
Okay. And what's a typical context? I think there's some obvious ones that we think about when we hear the word grief.
Yeah, so we think about losing a loved one or a pet,
Yep.
someone dying, something dying.
Yep.
That's
I think
the
that's
typical
the
go-to.
The typical. I need some time to grieve.
Yeah.
You know, if you tell someone that, they're gonna automatically assume someone died,
Yeah. Oh, man.
right?
What happened? Yes.
Yeah.
Grief is typically associated with death. But today we're talking a little bit more about how grief is associated with loss.
Right. And I think that's something that's happening to us, but I don't feel like people are talking about it.
I agree.
You know, we had Alex on here, Baloo. We've had two Alexes on here as guests, and he was part of a music project called Arlo
Yeah.
that went on for like 10 years, and he was talking about when he finally had to let it go, and there was some of what I imagine some grief. You know, whether it's a business or a project, this is something you put time, effort, money, things into for years. So it only makes sense that you've developed a kind of connection or bond. It doesn't have to be a person,
Yeah.
you know?
Isn't that wild? What a great example. I didn't know he worked on that for 10 years.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so this can be breaking up, divorce,
Yep.
A lifelong friend, going different ways, moving out of state.
Yeah, losing all your friends. If you're
Yeah.
younger, that's
loss.
That's loss.
Yeah.
When you're young and you have like 3 best friends and whatever,
You move away.
yeah. You don't, in your head, you're like, I'll never see him again.
Yeah. And then there's losing a business, which wrecks people when
Yeah.
they have to lose a
If
business
you
for whatever
spent
reason.
years,
Yeah.
blood, sweat, and tears, it makes sense there might be some grief involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A business partner
Yeah.
goes south for
Yep.
some reason,
Yep.
and they exit or leave.
Yeah. Even if it's the best thing that could have happened.
Yeah,
There might
still
be some.
loss.
Yeah.
A career opportunity. So you may have applied for this position in a company, and it took them several weeks, maybe even months, to do interview rounds and all that kind of stuff, and you found out you didn't get the job.
Yeah. You set all these expectations.
You even bought a new car because you thought you were going to get the raise.
Don't do that. Now you're feeling some grief.
Yeah.
And you might be feeling stupid if you bought that car without getting the job. But
Grief mixed with
anyway.
stupidity. And then what you just said, man, working on a project, like working on something for
Yeah.
hours and hours of your life, commitments, and then for some reason that
You realize it's time to move on. You got to let it go. It's time to change or whatever it may be.
Yeah, that's loss.
That's loss. So I think we've got some stages of grief, right?
Yeah, we do. This is from Elisabeth Ross. She had a name in between there, but it was like something Dutch or something crazy that I couldn't pronounce. So it's Elizabeth something Ross. But the stages of grief are not linear and do not necessarily occur in this specific order.
Oh, okay.
Now, I like these stages because a lot of us have heard of these stages. So
Yeah.
before we get into some abstract ideas of loss and grief, I figured we'd hit like the familiar side of it. So individuals may not move back and forth, or individuals may move back and forth between stages, or they may experience some stages more intensely.
Makes perfect sense. We're all different.
Yep.
So denial.
Yep. Stage 1 or A stage.
A stage. Anger.
Yep.
Bargaining.
Oh, yeah.
Depression.
Yeah.
Acceptance.
Does acceptance come before any of the others? I don't know. Maybe
you know what? I really accept this,
accept
and the next day you're like, I'm denying the acceptance.
That's true.
You're in denial of the acceptance.
That's true. One day you might feel like, okay, I'm going to move past this. And then the next day something triggers and you're like angry again.
Just kidding. No, I have not moved past it.
So, yeah. Okay, cool. I thought that was me being clever, but no, they can go back and forth.
Well, I was with you for a second, and then I thought about it. But I think we've all felt this, for like the classic, you're young with the breakup, the denial, bargaining, that one.
Yeah.
No, it's going to work.
It's going to work.
It's going to work,
Love me.
Depression, acceptance. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
Then you know.
And speaking from a place of, I can say I've never, some of the friends that I had, just found out about one last week, friends that I had in high school have passed away. Mm-hmm. But I've never in the moment had someone who was very close to me in that moment pass away. So I don't know what that's like.
Yeah.
Yet.
I don't either.
So, obviously for someone listening to this, if you have experienced, significant loss, like a tragic loss, wife or kids or husband or unexpected, young parent dying or something like that, right? So we're going to speak a little bit more on the day-to-day stuff, businesses, letting go of things like that.
Yeah, I'm not really sure if this is the spot to look for
for
consulting or for
if you just experienced significant tragic loss.
Yeah.
Like this might feel light to you, and that's not the intention. Like,
we're not.
Go seek help. Like, so anyway, just want to make sure we say that.
Nice disclaimer, bro. I'm with you.
But first, man, what happens in the brain during grief?
All right, so this is coming from Psych Central. Grief can rewire our brain in a way that worsens memory, cognition, and concentration. You might feel spacey, forgetful, or unable to make good decisions. It may also be difficult to speak or express yourself.
Now, you know what's interesting here? So in therapy, I'm learning about the emotional self and the thinking self.
Yes.
And how they're different parts of the brain.
Mm-hmm.
So when you experience loss, and again, on a scale of, a project dying or, whatever, something more tragic, your emotional brain really kicks in. And a lot of energy is going towards that emotional brain. And so that's why some of the more thinking functions, executive functions of the brain get a little bit weary.
Yeah, I mean, it's really sad. But like in my head, when you kind of picture someone who's going through like tremendous loss, you just kind of picture them staring off.
Yeah.
It says spacey, but like, just in a daze.
Yeah.
And it turns out it's a physical thing happening in the brain. Like, it's not like, snap out of it, which would be like the worst thing to ever say. But there's a physical thing happening in the brain for you to feel that way.
Yeah.
Wild.
Absolutely. So, this is what's, this is specifically what came out of the therapy session that blew my mind.
Right. Yeah. You learned that, okay, grief is not just emotional, but also literally physical, right, bro?
Yes.
Physical how?
Okay. So this is wild.
Yeah.
Okay. It makes sense, but I never thought about this before in my life.
Okay. Let's hear it.
So our brain's constantly creating neural pathways, right?
Always.
So let's use the pet example, for loss of pet, right? Let's think about that. And this applies to creating a business that you worked on for 10 years. So but the pet is a good example. You come home.
Yeah.
Who greets you?
The pet, first thing.
And they come up. Different pets are different, but let's say this pet comes up and they come up close to you and you pet it, so you got the touch.
Let's do the classic dog.
Yeah, classic dog.
They run up, they're
Man's
happy,
best
tails wagging.
Yes.
You know, they're excited to see you.
They're excited to see you.
Yeah.
And you pet them, you feel them, you smell them, you see them, you hear them.
Yep.
And that happens almost damn near every day you come home.
Yep.
Well, so neural pathways start creating in your brain that says, when I get home, I will be greeted this way.
Yep.
And then that's just one piece of it. Like when you're sitting by the TV and the dog comes and jumps in your lap.
Yep.
All these things, just these things that happen, these reoccurring events happen over and over again.
Are building physical connections in your brain.
Are building, that's right.
And you're to the point where now your body expects it.
Yes.
It
moves from the conscious to the subconscious.
It is an expectation, whether you realize it or not, that you have now because it's been happening.
Yes.
Okay.
So then when the pet dies and you come home.
Yeah.
And there's no pet to come run up and greet you.
Your physical body expects that.
Yes. And when it doesn't happen, there's neural pathways that connect the emotions with the thinking brain, with all these sections of the body and your hands, all that stuff. Those neural pathways slowly die off.
So when people say it actually hurts, the grief actually hurts.
It hurts.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's pretty intense.
I know.
I mean, it makes sense for people who have felt it, you know, when you talk about severe grief.
Yeah.
You know, you feel it deep down.
Yeah.
Turns out, yes, you do feel it deep down.
Yeah.
Your body is actually killing off the pathways are slowly dying.
Yeah. You feel empty when your hands can't pet that dog.
I'm sorry to laugh, but it's just
you feel cold when that dog doesn't jump in your lap at night.
Yeah. Yeah, because your body is expecting something, you know.
A warm thing to lay on you.
It was there for years.
Yeah.
Now it's not there.
Yeah.
No wonder grief is so intense, bro.
I know.
It really makes sense why.
Yeah.
It makes sense now why you're spacey.
Yeah.
You know, you've got pathways in the brain that are changing.
So on a very small level of how our brains work, which is kind of funny. So my wife and I have drawers under our bed.
Okay.
And like a year ago, we switched sides.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't switch the drawers. So my clothes were on her side, her clothes were on my side. So just this weekend, we were like, we should switch these drawers around because this is annoying.
Yeah.
And we did. But I can tell you that 15 times already,
You've gone to the wrong side.
I've gone to the wrong side. And not only did I go to the wrong side once, I went to the wrong side, went to the right side, went to the bathroom, came back out. So I put on my underwear.
Yeah.
I always put on my underwear,
Yeah.
fix my hair halfway, put on a shirt, finish fixing my hair, then put on my pants.
Okay.
That's my morning routine.
Okay.
Every fucking time.
You went to the wrong one.
I went to the wrong one.
Because you built the pathways.
I built the pathway.
It's subconscious now.
Yep, the brain takes habits. It's a lot of energy to create a new habit. So then once you form that habit, it puts it down in the subconscious and you just do it so you don't have to think about it. And that's the way the brain conserves energy. And so then every single time I go to the wrong drawer. And so my brain has to pull that back up to the conscious, tell it that there's a new thing, create new neural pathways, kill the old one off. So then I go to the right drawer. And imagine that times your best friend or your business that you worked on for 10 fucking years.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean?
Anything.
Imagine that. The millions and millions upon millions of all the visual cues, the touch cues, the smell cues, the hear cues, all the habits associated with building a business that then you lose or walk away from.
Yeah.
That is loss.
It makes you wonder if everyone's kind of in a low state of grief constantly.
That's exactly why I wanted to do this episode.
We did not plan that. But yeah.
How much of us
are in a
low state of grief continuously?
Yeah. I don't know. We don't have. Do we have a statistic on that?
No, I don't even. I don't.
How do you even ask that?
Well, when I was reading this,
What is a low like?
Yeah, when I was doing the research on this, like I said, someone may be like, "What are y'all talking about?" Because I didn't. This is all just from my head.
This is from a therapy session
It's from a
mostly. Is where the
therapy
inspiration came from for the episode.
Yeah, so there's not a lot of research on like.
There's tons of research on massive loss.
Yes.
But is there research on? Let's just call it low grade loss. That sounds weird.
Yeah, like a low state, or just like a low level of
low or less. Whatever. We don't have
Yeah.
a term for it.
Yeah. So I don't know, man, but like that's where.
But these things are happening. Just
things
like
are happening.
Alex with the music project,
Yes.
businesses. Your house. People like, oh, I lived in this home. I don't want to.
Yes.
We lived in this home for 20 years. I have
got
so
a
many
story about
memories
that.
here.
I have a story about that.
Yeah.
So this person was telling me that they built, their service was to go in and move elderly people out of their house into an old folks home, but like one of the assisted, not like a nursing home, but like the 55 plus communities.
Yeah.
And they were struggling to sell these houses. And when they did the research and they talked to a lot of the potential customers, what they found is the dining room table is where so many memories happened. The reason they could not sell their house and move into these new homes was because there was no dining room, because the designers of the house they had no clue. They didn't grow up in a generation where the dining room table was one of the most significant rooms in the house.
No shit.
And they were in their fucking 30s. So
Yeah.
they're still living in apartments where there was no dining rooms. And so
Yeah.
they were just thinking about, oh, well, these old people live by themselves now. They don't need a dining room. But that was the one, that was the majority
That's where
component.
They kept sitting, having their coffee or tea, reading the paper or whatever.
Yes.
They were still using it every day.
Still using
That's
it where
all the memories
every day.
were.
That's where all the memories were, the pictures
the kids
were.
grew up. Yeah.
Yes. So when they redesigned the house, because this was like a new developer type community.
Yeah.
When they found this information and they redesigned the house to still have a space for a dining room table, and they said, we'll help you move your dining room table from here to here. So if your kids still come, they can still come. Their sales increased significantly.
I mean, it makes sense.
It makes sense, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's a powerful thing. We like imprint our memories on those.
Yeah.
This is kind of random.
We've been random. This is a good random episode.
Well, there's a spot. All right. So I'm moving back. Here's the scenario. I'm moving back from Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I'm post breakup.
Yep.
I'm moving back to Georgia.
Yeah.
So I have a spot where I go mountain biking a lot. But there's one spot, I think I sat down and I just started thinking about shit. But now every time I ride by it, I think about the time I was thinking about it. I don't feel like the grief or the emotions, but it's funny, but I'll always just think about when I sat down and think about it in that one spot.
Yeah.
Every fucking time. And I'm like, how many years has to go by before the imprint of this spot goes away? We're talking about a random spot in the woods.
So, okay, hold on. So let me make sure I understand. So you came back post breakup.
Yeah.
You went mountain biking.
Yeah.
You sat down at a spot on the trail and just thought about your breakup. And now, 5 years later,
Yeah.
every time you drive by that spot, you remember sitting there thinking about that.
That's what I think of when I'm in that spot.
Every time.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I've like imprinted. I wasn't trying to.
Yeah.
And it's not even like I'm grieving.
Right.
Like I'm moved on.
Yeah.
But it's funny. I think about thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think about sitting there and doing that thing
Wow.
every fucking time.
That's crazy.
So I get it. You've been in a house for 50 years. Your kids grew up, your grandkids, the memories, the Christmases,
Yeah. Imagine, so this is pretty interesting in the business concept, but, the generation of wealth that's going to be passed on is a lot of boomers own businesses that they don't want to own anymore,
Yeah.
and their kids don't want the business. So that's an opportunity. There's trillions of dollars worth of small businesses that are available to purchase because the boomer's kid doesn't want it.
Yeah, they don't want to deal with it.
So, but think about this in the context of what does the boomer want to let go of?
They want to pass their legacy.
Yeah, but just like the dining room table, imagine going in and understanding from the perspective of a boomer, what do they want to stay intact when the business carries on?
The name.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know, but that's what I'm
Maybe the
guessing.
name. I don't know. Maybe it's the fact that Aunt Susie did the the money stuff, and they just really don't want Aunt Susie to get let go. Who knows what it is?
Who knows? I'm sure it's different for every business.
Yeah, but it'd be interesting to like when going in and acquiring those businesses, doing that work to really understand what that is, to make that transition easier for the person selling.
I think this is why, and I'm not like a Buddhist or an expert on Buddhism, but I know part of it is not being too attached to things.
Yeah.
And because look at this, and I'm not saying it's good or bad.
Right.
But
it is.
But it is what it is.
Yeah.
But you don't want to move into a new place because there's not a dining room. You help someone, you tell someone we can move your dining room table and your sales go up because they have attachment to a table. Now, if I just told you, it makes sense. They had memories there. But if I just said, this guy's attached to a table.
That would be weird.
That would be weird.
Yeah.
But in our minds, we make it more than a table.
Well, it's like a car.
It's like a car.
When you buy your first nice car and people are like, man, that's a nice car. How's work going? Things must be going well. Let's say you start a construction company.
Yeah.
And what do you do when you own a construction company?
You buy an F-250.
You buy $80,000 truck.
Yeah. You buy an F-250 King Ranch or Platinum.
And you drive that bitch like you own the world.
Yep.
And it feels good.
Yeah.
Now, if you go on a deeper level there, you may be the first person who's owned a successful business in your family.
Oh, yeah.
So you got all this pride, healthy pride.
Yeah.
You've got all this just association with this thing, and you feel good. But then, let's say the business doesn't do so well.
Yeah.
And a CPA says, you might want to sell that truck and buy a $20,000 truck.
Right.
Or
if it's a Dodge, it broke down.
Your CPA might be like, sell the Dodge and buy a fucking Ford. I'm not even a Ford guy.
No, exactly. You say your CPA says, you got to sell this truck.
Yeah.
And you're like, no way. This represents my success.
Yeah.
You made it represent something. You gave it, and you built the attachment to it.
Yeah.
Is an idea.
Yeah.
That's the problem. That's why the Buddhism stuff is trying to eliminate that.
Yeah.
Because now it's part of your identity.
Yeah.
Your identity of success is now wrapped up in a fucking truck.
Yeah.
Which is stupid.
Yeah.
I think, personally.
But we do it with everything.
But we do it with everything. And I'm guilty of doing it too.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
Our clothes. And again, it goes back to, well, now we're kind of going into like image and what it represents, but like it goes back into we create these norms, these habits, these things in our brain, and we attach emotions and memories and habits to these things.
So people become, they hoard stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff from your grandma, whatever, someone passes away, you go to their house, oh man, I'm going to keep these and this memorabilia. And what happens? It gets stuffed in a box, usually, not always, and put in a basement and just sits there.
You can't throw it away.
You can't let go of it.
Because you literally feel like you're throwing away grandma.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
You feel like you're throwing grandma in the fucking trash, and the trash can is going to come and squish grandma, and blood and guts are going to go everywhere, and you're going to have to say goodbye as the trash truck drives off and grandma's thrown into the landfill.
And all grandma's thinking when she's looking is like,
I died 20 years ago.
She's like,
she's like, I hated that dish. She's like, that was the ugliest dish I had.
She's like, clean the fucking garage, man.
Yeah.
Like, this is so cluttered. You know where I'm at right now? You think I care about this stuff? I'm living in the fifth dimension.
A whole new level. Oh man.
Oh dude.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And that's the way the brain works.
Yeah, and honestly, just knowing it is part of you don't know if you don't know. Yeah. You're just accepting it. You're just doing it unconsciously. That's the whole point of looking within and
working through
stuff
actively.
And just being self-reflective and just trying to work through unconscious things that we do. And you realize how many habits are unconscious, how many thought processes, all this shit going on in our head. How much of it is just unconscious? Yeah. You got to put the light on it, shine the flashlight on it. Like, why do I feel like this? Why am I thinking this way? Why do I have such attachment to this stuff?
Yeah.
You put the flashlight on and you're like, oh, that's why.
Yeah. Why do people sue each other over a business that's not worth damn near any money?
I'm going to spend $50,000 suing someone for a business that's worth $100,000.
Yeah. Yeah. It's some of it's ego and just trying to get back at the other person, but some of it is you've created so much
Identity,
and there's so many literal physical neural pathways in your brain that you feel like it's more valuable than it really is.
You feel like you're dying.
Yeah.
A part of you is dying because you created a part of yourself in that business.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, what's
That's
funny?
why a lot of people don't leave businesses that they should.
You know what's funny? Real quick. Brian and I, if you're new, we're brothers. But we already talked about this. We're like, hey, if the Focus Cast or some of the other ventures don't work, what are we going to do, bro?
We're going to take it out back and we're going to shoot it.
Yep. We're going to treat it like it's a horse with a broken leg.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have no attachment.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's great if you love your business and it's a family business and it was your grandfather's and you've got pride, but
what's the purpose of a business?
To make money.
Yeah.
And hopefully to at least spread some positivity and help people or provide a service worth providing.
If you're creating a business to show the world that you are valuable as a human being, then it's probably going to be pretty difficult for you. If your worth is tied up in your business.
Yeah, totally.
But I mean, it is for most people.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, if one of the other content ideas we have pops off.
Oh, yeah.
It gone.
From Focus Cast to Focus Last. I don't know.
I like that. So yeah, man, here's some abstract losses. This is pretty interesting, and this is kind of like, think about this. And to your point, I love that you said it. Are we all kind of are
in a low level state of grief?
Yeah, or many of us operate at a low level state of grief. But check this out: our belief that America is great and politicians look out for our best interests. Once you grow up and you realize that that's not true, that's a form of loss.
I wonder too, and I'm not a veteran, but I wonder too for like the previous generation.
Yes.
You know, which I think probably most of the World War II vets are gone now.
Yeah.
But let's just use them as an example. And then maybe later on in life, you're looking at politics and maybe you're thinking to yourself, what was the point? America's gone, yada, yada. Whether it is or not, that's irrelevant. Everyone's perspective and perception of reality is kind of their own.
Right.
But let's say you fought for the country.
Yeah.
And then in your head, like, America's lost. It's probably a form of loss there.
Yeah, 100%.
You know?
I think that's a great example.
So I don't have any experience with that myself. I'm just saying surely it's happened.
Well, it's like, we're taught in school that, like, every other country was bad.
Yeah.
And America's the greatest country in the world.
Right. And then you get older and you see wars and drone strikes, and you're like, okay.
Yeah. And honestly, let me just say this.
Let's get it, bro.
Let me just say this.
Let it out.
If you as an individual are in a room and you think you're better than everyone else in the room, what does that make you? A fucking dick.
Yeah, self-centered.
And everyone hates you.
Yeah.
So why would we know that about a circle of friends, but yet still believe that about...
On a larger scale. You're blowing up the scale.
You're just blowing up the scale.
I think, hopefully, for me, I try and separate governments from the people.
Yeah.
Because if you just say, oh, I hate those people. Why?
Yeah.
Maybe the leader is a genocidal mass murderer. But if you went on the boots on the ground and started meeting people, most of them are normal.
Yeah.
We're just trying to survive. So, but I know what you mean. If you can't separate the people from the governments, then you leads to some bad things.
It's weird. Another one I wrote, and I was just thinking about these, but our belief that a pastor or a person of authority is a respectable person, and they go off and you find out they're a child molester. That's a form of loss.
Yeah, you lost. That's a leader in your mind, like people like that.
Yeah,
like father figures. If you're growing up who aren't your dad, you've got maybe coaches and basketball, whatever.
Yeah,
insert whatever sport. You've got coaches. Maybe it's like instructors.
Yeah,
pastors, and then you find out that they're scumbags.
Yeah. That's a form of loss.
That's a form of loss.
Yeah.
That's someone you looked up to.
And what's crazy, it's not you, it's not a you and them thing. It's what your idea of what they were is.
Yeah.
So it's loss for yourself. It's loss for the image that you had, the projection that you had for that person. Now, again, they may have manipulated, and a lot of times that's the case.
In your head, they're basically dead. You find out that they're a scumbag, and then in your mind, that's what people say, you're dead to me.
Yeah.
You know, you're dead to me. I looked up to you. Turns out I shouldn't have because you're scummy. And that image of that person is now dead.
And what's crazy about that is the neural pathways that created the image of that person end up dying.
Yeah.
So to say you're dead to me is actually a true physiological neuro pathway statement.
Pretty wild. Never thought of that till right now on this episode.
Me either, actually. So okay, here's the last one I got for this one, and this is cool. Our identity that we formed to cope with childhood trauma, this is why this came up in the therapy session.
Right.
The identity that we formed to cope with whatever our previous environment was, when we come back to alignment, we kill that identity.
Yeah.
Or a piece of that identity, because that identity was formed as a coping mechanism. And to realign back to our true self, we have to no longer depend on that identity, that mask, that projection, and we get to just be ourselves. But a piece of that is killing that thing off.
Totally. Yeah, I mentioned David Goggins on here quite a bit now, but there's just so many examples. But the way he talks about his old self, his fat self, his worthless, unconfident, well, in his mind, worthless, not that people are worthless when they're fat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In his mind, I'm worthless, I'm fucking dumb. And these are his words, not mine. He talks about his old self like that and basically how he had to kill it, more or less. But it's true, kind of, in a way.
Yeah.
You have to delete, you have to sever the old ties.
You have to sever
that's
the old
not me
pathways.
anymore. That person's dead.
Yes.
The new me is these things.
Yeah.
Which is great that we can create our realities in that way.
Yeah.
But there might be some
our brain is malleable.
Malleable, yeah.
Yeah.
But there might be some grief involved.
Yeah.
Because you gotta, if you want significant change,
you
gotta kill the old you.
If you're a depressed person, for me, in some cases, feeling depressed feels good.
Yeah. Someone might ask why, though.
Yeah, well, we're working through that. For me, the reason feeling depressed feels good is because with disassociation, whatever I feel human. Even if
you
it's
feel
bad.
something.
So I feel something.
Yeah.
But for me, I loved in the internal family systems, which we covered that on a podcast, which was phenomenal. But they give characters, the exiles, the managers, and the firefighters. So for me, the managers have taken control for the past, 20 years.
Yeah.
So in realignment, I don't need the managers anymore. But let me tell you something. The managers aren't going quietly. They're
not dying without a fight?
They're not dying without a fight. They're like, you need me, bro. So it's real stuff. It's pretty wild. Anyway. Okay, cool. Coping with grief. This is from HBR. Low grief, high grief, whatever.
Yeah, any kind of grief. Some good old yoga.
Yeah, we talk about it every day.
Tai Chi, Qigong.
Moving.
You know what's funny? Let's go back to me moving back.
I'm ready.
2017.
Yep.
Post-breakup, back from Wisconsin.
Yep.
What did I start doing? Yoga.
Nice.
I'm like, I just need something.
Yeah.
In your head, you're like, I just need something.
I'm glad you chose yoga over crack.
Me too. I probably wasn't going to default to crack cocaine, but yoga was great. And wouldn't you know it, it worked wonders. It was amazing.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Before we hit these, it's like, what does this have to do with grief? Well, grief takes a lot of emotion. And it takes a lot of energy. Sorry, let me say that. Grief takes a lot of energy.
Yeah, if you're killing old neural pathways,
yeah,
that's energy from your body just doing that.
And you're working through tons of emotions that you may not have before. It just requires a ton of energy. So your body gets tired. And when your body's tired, it gets sick.
Yeah.
So that's why these things like yoga, and then I'm going to say the next one, maintain a healthy diet, sleep, exercise. These things are physical. So it's like, what does that have to do with grief? Well, it's because of that. You need to offset all the energy required to process grief.
Yeah.
With healthy habits. It's that simple.
Yep.
And the brain's malleable. So, and we've said this a million times in this podcast, but exercise makes your brain more malleable.
Exercise.
Yeah.
You know what? If you don't want to go to the gym, I don't want to go to the gym. I don't go to the gym.
Yeah.
You just got to find something, even if it's just a walk.
Find something to do it.
Yeah. humans have been walking since we became bipedal. So
that's a nice term, bro.
You don't want to argue. Are you going to argue with that much evolution? Our bodies were meant to walk. This shit's good for you. You don't have to go to the gym and do 1,000 crunches. That's lame anyway. That sucks.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. I'd rather go on a 20-minute walk.
I mean, I appreciate those people that do and have a beautiful six-pack.
Good for them.
I don't have it.
I'm not doing it.
Take on new responsibilities and reach out to your social circle.
Yeah. So everything we're talking about, all the habits going subconscious.
Yep.
I would say just to prepare yourself for being more malleable in the future and creating new connections anyway, something that we should all be doing is just changing things up.
Yeah.
Change the way your room is.
Yep.
Drive home a different way.
Yeah.
It may seem stupid or pointless, but if you've been driving the same way to work every day for 10 years, this is a subconscious habit built into your body.
Yeah.
So now when the road's blocked, you might have a slight stress response.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal, but it might be involuntary.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, fuck, which way do I go?
Yeah.
I went the same way for 10 years.
Yeah.
So, and I know people like that.
Yeah.
You put any little wrench in the cog, they freak out.
Yeah.
How are we going to do this?
Yeah.
You've met those people?
Oh, yeah.
That's because they're so attached to their habits. They're just, they're stuck in that. They can't do a they're not used to a different path.
Yeah.
And how the fuck are you going to start a business if you freak out because the road was closed, because a tree fell? You're like, how am I going to get to work? And I've met people like that. And in my head, I'm just thinking, like, how miserable are they? And I'm not trying to rip on them.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, don't get stuck like that.
Yeah.
Do different shit. Change your room up. Move stuff around. Try different ways to work.
Yeah.
Just try something different. Don't always do the same single thing every day, all day, and get stuck in this habits.
If you can't reprogram yourself, then you are being programmed by somebody else.
The program's already built in. Yeah, it happens. Anyway, I thought we're talking about grief, right?
Oh yeah, last one. This is good. So a way to look at grief is pruning plants. And again, this is a little different than like if you like someone you love died. Okay, this pruning plants example is not. That's very serious. That's very extreme.
Yeah,
I'm talking about like this everyday loss that we're kind of talking about. That's very interesting. But pruning plants, this involves removal of dead, diseased, or injured plant parts. Removal of these weak parts helps to minimize the potential for secondary or opportunistic pest. It also helps to maximize the aesthetic qualities and overall vigor of the plant. So pruning some of these, we talked about like if you're working on a project but you just don't want to let it go.
Yeah.
But you really should.
Yeah, maybe it's you had a great idea, or you think like this is an amazing idea. We're gonna do this project in business.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work.
Yes.
But you don't want to kill it. What did you call them? Zombie projects?
Zombie projects. All the projects that are 80% complete. They're just these half dead things walking around all the time, and you just haven't killed them. You haven't shot them in the head.
Yeah, it's time to take them out back.
Yeah. So
Loss
loss keeps you from letting go.
Yeah. If you're feeling these low-level griefs, prune them. Move on.
Yeah, take a walk.
Don't get too caught up in your subconscious habits.
Yep.
Be malleable.
Yeah.
And quit wasting energy on it.
That's right.
Sweet.
I love it.
All right, I think we're wrapped up here. I'm good. You got anything else to add, bro?
I got nothing else to say on this subject of a new way to look at grief.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening to The Focus Cast. Go to youtube.com/thefocuscast and slap that subscribe button. Head to thefocuscast.com to share what you want to hear next. Go forth and be focused as boy.